So this is the kickoff to a series of videos about how to build a doc site, and we use a tool called Mintlify, which a bunch of people are using. It's great. It lets you build out a doc site like the spec story one. All this is just Markdown or MDX, and the whole thing is managed through a repository of Markdown files, which is pretty much what you want. But it's like kind of expensive for what it does, like 100, 180 bucks a month. And so I've always wondered, like, could we build something that feels a lot like Mintlify, including the ability to just make updates to our Markdown documents and have them auto-deploy, or even have a built-in editor for our documentation site, be able to make changes here and see them flow through automatically. So I think we are facing the blank page challenge of creating a new app. Right, we're going to create this app, which is like, we'll call it TnyDocs. So we're going to create this TnyDocs application, and want it to look a lot like Mintlify. And we could just start prompting our way to it with Claude Code directly, but I'm here using Claude because it's going to give us a little bit of a place to do some brainstorming and planning, and even a guided walkthrough of that planning process, so that we have a chance for a much better outcome in terms of the app that we build. So let's dive in, brainstorm this. I could just say, this is a documentation site app. It should let you create, manage, and publish your docs. It should feel a lot like Mintlify. Except simpler. Yeah, you can start with that. And so, I mean, maybe this is enough to get us going, but let's see if we can get a little bit more here. So, yep, we're building a documentation site app, simple, like Mintlify, focused on creation, management, and publishing. All right, new thought. Imagine your ideal user lands on your doc site for the first time. What's the very first thing they want to do? What's the fastest, most delightful way they could do it with your tool? It auto-generates documentation from your project's code and AI chat history. It assumes you used AI code generation to build your app. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's enough. Maybe we want to think out loud. Let's try this think out loud. This was a feature that I had built in. Yeah. So the documentation app should both let you push Markdown files just through a repo, or edit them directly in the UI. Oh, and it should use this, like, there's a flavor of Markdown files that's already out there and useful for publishing and documentation sites. Not MDX, there's another one. I got to remember to look into that. Yep, there we go. Clean that up a little bit. So let's see if we can find this. Copy this. you look at Plan MD, do you know what this other format of Markdown is for creating living interactive docs? Yeah, we'll see if we can get something there. MDX, not this, MarkDoc, ViewPress, Docusaurus. Straight to here. Fine, updates available. Do you know of a documentation format like MDX that's open source and useful for creating living docs sites? I know Greg mentioned this one. Yeah, VS Code is just crashing on me. Yeah, I know Docusaurus. I know MDX. Nextra, Doxify, Doxy. MarkDoc. All right. Great. So Quarto. There we go. Took a while to figure it out. What about Quarto? How does that compare? So this starts to give you an example of like the things you do outside of the actual software development loop to narrow in on the parts and pieces that you're interested in. So Quarto is one of them. There's another thing which is like, if we're going to have a doc site, it's going to involve Markdown editing. I know that a Markdown editor that I like is the Markdown editor inside Obsidian. Right, so if we come in here and create a new note, Markdown, what's the best? You know, it's kind of nice the way it behaves and interacts. And so I had done some research before on Markdown editors, and specifically the one that Obsidian uses. So I could probably find it or just ask it again. That was actually a fine. What Markdown editing library does Obsidian use? Let's see. Okay. CodeMirror 6, right? So maybe I'll just drop these as some of the ideas in here. So I know that Obsidian uses CodeMirror 6 for, is that what it was? CodeMirror 6 for Markdown editing, and I like the way Obsidian works. So let's think about including that in TnyDocs. Here, Quarto is quite different from MarkDoc. It's designed for scientific and technical publishing with computational documents. Built on Pandoc, supports executable code blocks, great for data science, research papers, presentations, opens to multiple formats, includes citations. All right, so reading here, you know, it's really advocating for MarkDoc, better suited for a Mintlify-like experience. You mentioned Quarto would be overkill unless you need computational notebooks or scientific publishing features. I'm not sure we do. MarkDoc is open. Okay. let's do a little bit of research on Markdown. Markdown. Markdown-based syntax and toolchain for creating custom documentation sites. I mean, can I type over here? No. I can type over here. I want something that feels more like inline editing. Okay. Quarto. Right, feels like Jupyter, which is interesting. Dashboards, websites, books, interactive docs. Gauge readers, and shiny web framework for R. Yeah, I think it's really inspiration from here. Greg knows Hamel and said that he uses Quarto, and that's what a lot of this comes from. Let's see. Yeah, QMD files. Quarter document, which is a file format that allows for the combination of Markdown text to executable code. Write your text in Markdown. Add code cells using the appropriate syntax for your chosen language. Use Quarto CLI or an integrated development environment to render. Is Markdown just an editor? I don't like the fact that it's not live editing, but just two-paned view. What about Quarto? Yeah, that is really what I'm asking. Markdown-based documentation format. Powerful schema and component system. Not an editor, not a live editor app. It's a renderer and compiler. Think of it more like a Markdown plus config plus custom tags engine. Typically static site style, stripe style, structured docs. Great for strict formatting, not great for live editing or interactive previews. Strict consistent documentation, but not live editing. It's not interactive like MDX plus React or Obsidian. An open source scientific and technical publishing system built on top of Pandoc. Creating reports. Fine. I mean, maybe it's Pandoc that we want. Obsidian style live preview, rich Markdown with custom components in browser editing. You might like MDX plus live preview. Build or use tools like interactive code blocks, custom Markdown plugins. So this is the messy exploration ahead of starting something, right? It's not always just clean. Maybe. Okay. Okay. Markdown format, editor, doc sources, live UI editor, publishing. Yeah, I kind of like this, but want something. I think we're going to want something more powerful than Markdown and YAML front matter, right? So if we again come to our doc site, it's MDX, and so let's come back here and say, but Mintlify uses MDX. We need to be as rich in terms of the type and style of content we can create. Oh, forget that I said we can't use MDX. I'm open to anything. What's your recommendation? Use MDX. Okay. Great. Let's take this recommendation and drop it in. Oh, this is so annoying. This is like the worst part of ChatGPT is the copy. All right, just paste it in here and ditch the parts that we don't want. Here, we can put that in, that's fine. This wants to be like that. Editors, code mirror, sure. Syncing and source management, auto generation. I don't think we need this and this. Okay, so there's the brainstorm. Okay, it's fine. Good enough. Now, while we're waiting, we could do quick prototype, which is just going to put a prompt in here. You can see the prompt that says, make a web-only mockup of the following with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then open it up, right? So then it puts the whole brainstorm in. That'll send Claude Code off, so we have something visual to look at as we continue to plan. So now let's go through users and needs. Who are you building for? We are building for founders and small teams that want the ease of use of Mintlify without the price tag. Also, the TnyDocs app will be open intent, meaning that anybody can build it from scratch based on our open spec. Can build it or extend it. Okay, let's see. Great, that's helpful. Let's get even more specific. So I think here we're getting, what are we getting? Nothing yet. Let's see. Are these founders and small teams typically developers, technical writers, or non-technical users? This team is typically technical and product founders, very hands-on. Is your main audience people building software products, open source projects, internal company tools, or something else? Oh boy, that's a great question. We'll say mostly building software products. For the open intent aspect, are you aiming to serve independent contributors, plugin developers, or communities building on top of the TnyDocs? Want to support independent, we want to support users as builders, so people can get the exact docs software they need. Yeah, we'll get to the pain points in a minute. All right. Core users are technical and product founders. You want to support users as builders, goals and pains. Small technical teams use the existing documentation tools. What's their biggest frustration? Biggest frustration is just the high cost. Secondary is ease of customization. All right, here's what it decided. Yes, this is good. So technical founders, small software product teams to overcome high costs of documentation platforms, achieve easy, deep customization of their docs. Yes. Okay. Let's make sure that we got this here. And, oh, let's take a look at the mock-up. Let's go finish writing that out, and then I'll open it. Come back. And pop into users and needs. Maybe on the next section it'll end up writing those in. These are all saved behind the scenes, right? This is, you're seeing an early version of the Bear Claude Project Planner. So we'll keep cleaning it up. Okay, here's the UI only mock-up of what this might look like. Yeah, it's pretty minimal right now. It's very minimal, actually. So it didn't make any of it clickable, but that's okay. Maybe there's something to think about here, even just in the panel view, the sort of 3-panel layout. Although You can see it always defaults to this idea of Markdown being a split editor, which if you love Obsidian or Bear, you definitely don't love that. All right, picking back up, we've got our brainstorming and users and needs done. Let's talk about application readiness. Right, in order to get good output from Claude Code or any other agent, we want to be explicit about how far we're trying to bring this project at this moment in time, right? Because if you're trying to do something that's launchable in production, public ready, you'll end up getting a lot of guidance for things like performance testing, accessibility in terms of user interface, right? Like there's just going to be a lot that might come up in the plans that you might not care about. And if you say nothing, it actually ends up, typically the models end up biasing towards really hardened, production-ready task lists, even though the code may or may not be hardened and production-ready. So if we steer ourselves towards either prototype or MVP, we'll end up with a different experience. And so actually we're realistically at the stage of prototype. We really don't even have something to that we would share broadly. I mean, we have nothing right now, right? So it's not a bad idea to start with a prototype. Yeah, it's still not making the updates I wish it were making to the plan, but we'll just have to figure that out in a little bit. Form factor, so it's going to be a web application. We're really going to focus in on desktop browsers. I don't think we need to try, certainly with this first version or with this prototype, to support mobile browsers. So let's go with that as our form factor. Okay. Right, so we've got our form factor, web application, desktop browsers only. And so now it's writing these into our plan.md doc. We know the fidelity is a prototype. Form factor is web application for desktop browsers. Let's keep going on and think through the core features, right? So the main problem your app solves, what's one feature that directly addresses that problem? Without this feature, your app wouldn't make sense. I think it is that you can get a documentation outline written really quickly by pointing TnyDocs at your code and your AI chat history. Core values, rapid documentation. Yep. TnyDocs couldn't automatically, would it still be useful? We can define your MVP's first feature. Yep. Auto-generate documentation from code base and AI chat history. Good. All right. Auto-generate. Think about the MVP after users get their docs auto-generated. Next most essential. Being able to, it's being able to edit quickly and easily. Edit the docs by hand or with AI assistance. Third core capability, editable. Must be able to publish live to my custom domain. Yep, that sounds about right. Let's see if it captured it. Auto-generate documentation. Quickly and easily edit documentation by hand or with AI assistance. Publish documentation live to a custom domain. Great. All All right, let's keep rolling. Language and framework, it's probably going to make a recommendation. That's what it does off the bat based on everything we've provided so far. TypeScript and Next.js. Sounds about right. This is good. And cloud services. Again, it'll make a recommendation based on everything that we've provided so far. And then we can either keep it or tweak it. So, for cell, Supabase, Supabase auth, Supabase storage, resend for transactional emails. Yeah. Okay. That looks good. Yeah. So now hopefully it's reading everything I wrote up here and coming up with. Okay, code mirror, yep, it shows that. Next MDX remote, let's see what that is. Lets you render MDX files as React components, powering custom documentation, layouts, dynamic embeds, and live component previews. Okay. OpenAI API, sure. GitHub repo sync, GitHub API client, OctoKit REST. Alternative runs Git operations in browser. Sync. These look good. Except, isn't there a more standard approach to Git Git features in Node app? I mean a Next.js app which is built on Node. So like the thing I'm thinking through is we don't actually need like Git features in the browser or anything like that, right? Like we just need GitHub sync on the back end, not in the browser. I guess it's going to say no. For Next.js app, official GitHub REST. Oh, okay. Oh, it's maintained by GitHub, supports all repo. Widely used in production. Yeah. Okay, great. Great. Sometimes we look these up. I'm familiar with this one. I'm not familiar with this one. So it could be useful to learn about it. Okay. Has 3,000 stars. I guess relatively recent updates. MDX to be loaded within Git static props. Hydrated correctly on the client. Gotta be honest, don't know what that really means, but it's like best tools, best libraries for MDX support in my Next.js app. How to use Markdown and MDX in Next.js. Okay. The Next.js plugin handles transforming Markdown and React components into HTML. Next MDX package. And what about just using nextmdx package instead of nextmdx remote? Let's see, planning, discovery. Great question. Here's a comparison. Seamlessly integrates MDX support in your Next.js app. Build process, you import MDX files. So you fetch and render at runtime from a database, GitHub, or external source, not just at build time. Hydrated on the client. Dynamic documentation, slightly more setup. Since your app supports editing docs in the UI and GitHub repo sync. Okay. Great. That's helpful. Let's keep what we had then. OpenAI, I know what it is, and we just learned about OctoKit REST. Okay, this plan looks good, or this pre-planning looks good. Let's have it generate a spec for us and go from there. And while that's generating, we'll just take a look again at our prototype. I mean, it's really not great. Oh, I see what it thinks it did. It thinks it kind of confused two things. I guess, no, I mean, it's like see your site and edit your site at the same time. Which is really interesting, actually. Even just from that prototype, I can pull out a nugget, which is that with Mintlify, I don't actually see the site in the way that my users see the site, right? My hierarchy is kind of buried in this mint.json file. Of course, when I go to the docs site, I mean, here it is rendered. But it's sort of like, even just from this dead simple basic preview, like why wouldn't we just render the site navigation in the editor the same way that users see it? And, you know, I get it. Doc sites can get super complex, and maybe that's not what you want to do for the largest doc sites that have many different sections that maybe are personalized. But for our basic doc site, it seems easier. And thinking back, creating or modifying this mint.json file is one of the hardest things, because you do it and then you kind of can't see the result very quickly. All right, I like that feature. So functional requirements, file browsing, viewing, adding, renaming, or deleting documentation files and folders, project dashboard, user can access. Let's so right by this file browser, we'll do ability to see documentation in the editor organized by the same navigation UI as end user see, making it easy to get to the docs page I want to edit. Okay. Great. Our next step with this one would be generating a task list to get started on. And so actually have a nice prompt for doing that. easiest way to get it is by creating a new project. We'll just call it T for now and include the planning template. And then we go into the documents and we can see 4 tasks. It's this prompt here. So let me pull this over. Pull this whole thing over to the other project we were just working on, and maybe I'll create a new file called tasks, and we'll paste this in, and based on my current spec and plan.md, help me to identify the right next chunk of work. I'm just getting started. So current state of my project, I'm just getting started. And nothing exists except for a simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript prototype. Okay, this is already spelled out, so I don't need to do this. Help me choose the right next tasks. Yep, I can do that a little bit by hand. Great. Okay. Okay. Maybe one more piece would be write the task list at the end of tasks.md. Perfect. Send that over to here. Oops. Send that over to here. There we go. Yeah, this is typically where I'd be bouncing around doing something else, like tweeting or watching a little mini video or reading something about AI code gen or agentic development. Because as much as I love Opus, it can be slow. All right. So, project with proper structure, set up development environment and tools, create a minimal hello world page, set up a Vercel project, create GitHub repo, configure environment variables locally, see a page working. Okay, let's get the page working even without Supabase or Vercel or GitHub. So let's get started even without Supabase, Vercel, or GitHub. I'll set those up once you can run npm run dev. Now, the interesting thing is, we'll see if this works, because I've had challenges in the past with other agents creating my Next.js app for me. It always ends up in a subfolder or a subfolder of a subfolder. Let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, so these are the little like directories that bear Claude inspect story and even Claude create. Let me initialize the project manually to work around this. Okay, this is where it potentially goes off the rails, but we'll see how it goes. Sure. Use all the standard packages like Tailwind. Yeah, I often run the create next app script myself. It's okay. Let's see what it's doing. So it's got TnyDocs. It moved what into docs? Yep, that makes sense. Lock up in here. Okay. Sure. Yeah, like all the manual config creation. This should all just happen with create next app. So it sort of depends on how lucky the AI gets in choosing the right set of config files. Creating the landing page. Okay. I guess that's better than the starter Next.js app. You can now run npm run dev. It'll start the development server and you'll see your docs. Okay, so we're at this point where we think we've got a minimal Next.js app built out. We saw it here. And now we're going to get that server running. So npm run dev. Okay, that thinks it's up and running. That's great. Okay. Build error directly as a post CSS plugin. Is that what we're doing? Yeah, stuff like this is stuff that would have just been taken care of by create next app. I'll always run the dev server myself. Just tell me when to start or restart it. Hey, TnyDocs homepage. You know, of course, we got to share this with friends. Okay. We're in a pretty good spot. So usually what we do is we just ask Claude Code to update the tasks.md file to indicate what's been completed. I just ran the server and the page looks great. I wanted to add in little emojis for what's done and what's waiting. Sounds good. It looks like it's also still working off of that original prompt that we put in about creating bite-sized chunks of work, so that's working nicely, I think. Okay. Did it do it? Mark the completed environment. What do you think it edited here? docs/task.md. There we go. Okay, so I think there's one more thing we want to do here before a good stopping point, which is to get this committed to Git repo and up on GitHub. So to do that, let's just check. I don't think I pre-created a repo yet. No, TinyForms, TinyLink, but not TnyDocs. So great. It's now time to commit this project to GitHub. I don't have a repo set up yet. Walk me through the steps. Walk me through it. Great. Okay, got the user through GitHub repository setup and initial commit. That is what I want you to do. Yep. Yeah, go ahead. Initialize Git locally. Yes. Oh, hold on a second. Do we want to stage all files and check status? First, create a good git ignore file for this Next.js app. Yeah, because otherwise everything, like literally everything in this whole directory will get pushed to Git. So, for example, don't include node modules or any of the dot directories in this project. Good. Yeah, go ahead. If I had accepted all, I would have missed the last one, so we'll be a little more careful with git commands. So set it all up, configured, created a landing page, project documentation, which we spent the bulk of the time writing, and sure, co-authored by Claude, why not? Okay. Create the repo on Git called TnyDocs. I mean, don't you want me to go do them? Yeah, all right, I'm going to go do them. So we're going to come here, we're going to create a new repository. It's going to be called TnyDocs, and I'll share this out with folks. Create. Okay, now we can either do this, or we could let it guide us through. Run these commands. Git push commands.txt. And I can help you push the code. GitHub, your username, TnyDocs. Okay. I created this repo. Yep. Yep. And in a few seconds, we should see it there. Oh, it even did what I was going to ask it to do and cleaned up its commands file because it just ran them for me. Okay, so now if we come back here. Oh man. Yeah. Create a README file and commit it. Right, otherwise we're just going to have this empty README here, and it'd be nice to describe what this project is about and how we created it and how to use it. So let's see. Also, because it'll be a Markdown file, it should show up over here too. We'll be able to view it. Yep, there it is. So, yeah, these are the desired features. That's funny. It's not there yet, but there is no local config yet, but we'll use that in the future. All right, sure. And it even chose a license for us. Yes. Whoops. Yes. Yes. And push it. There we go. We'll come back and test this out too, tweak it if we need to, but we're at a good stopping point. So I'll see you again next time.